How are you? How's your Thursday going?
It is good. It's sunny here in LA, so I can't complain. But it's just another day of quarantine, so I'm going crazy still.
Tell me about it. I
Where are
think that
you at?
I'm in Long Beach. I'm down the street.
Oh, fire. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So I think everybody kind of going through the same thing. So I'm gonna just introduce myself, Tiffany with Preme. Thank you for tapping in with us.
Of course.
I'm just gonna jump into the interview.
Yeah,
So
no worries.
with quarantine and everything that's happening, like how are you finding joy these days?
Oh, definitely my dog. Like, stepping out of the house to go walk my dog is by far the most like action I get in a day. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I
because
feel
I am taking quarantine pretty serious. Like if I traveled to see my parents during quarantine on a flight, but it was like real quick. I had to see my family. I hadn't seen them in like 5 months. So other than that, I've been just at home. I've been actually like quarantining. So it's been yeah, I think the dog is definitely the highlight of my day most days.
I feel that. I feel that. That's what's up. I mean, as long as you have your dog, you have something to keep you sane during this. That's definitely a plus for
Yeah,
sure.
for sure. A lot of people are getting like cats and dogs during quarantine, which is cool.
Yes, I literally just got two cats. That's
Oh,
irrelevant.
that's crazy. That literally proves my point. That's funny as hell.
Yeah. So your first single of 2020 was Shimmy. And the first line is like, it's kind of like I've arrived line. Like, it's been a whole year.
Hmm.
Let's not front, it's my year. Are you pacing yourself? Are you strategically like releasing an album at a certain time to like prove longevity?
I don't know necessarily about the timing, to be
Mhm.
honest with you, because the timing is like, what can you expect nowadays? You know what I mean? Like tons of black people getting killed, then it's a virus, then it's like, what the fuck? Like, you don't even, timing is by far out the window nowadays. You can't plan for nothing, you know what I'm saying? So for me, I released Shimmy at a time when quarantine wasn't a thing, you know what I mean? And we had a whole rollout and a plan for the album to come out a little bit sooner. You guys should have had the album by spring, you know what I'm saying? Like early spring, but we had to like try and get creative with the way we did things because of quarantine. So for me, it wasn't really the timing that mattered. It was really like when I released this album. You know what I mean? I wanted to make sure I was in the right place and ready for it because I, to be honest with you, I've been working on this album for 2 years and I pushed it back about like 3 times. I think it was supposed to come out maybe like fall of last year. Then like I just been I put out 1.5 to give me more time to work on this album.
Mm,
That's why I called it 1.5 because it wasn't the second album. You know?
got you, got you. Yeah, definitely makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Is the energy different, like going into limbo? Like, was
Yeah,
energy kind of like different from making Good for You or even 1.5?
for sure. I mean, I feel like 21, 22, 23, when I was making Good For You, I was just in a state where I'm just so happy to like achieve my dreams, to like start pacing to achieve my dreams, you know? So I was just a really naive and bright kid wanting to make like a good first album out, perfectionist and all that shit. But now, like second album came, which is 1.5, I guess, second. And I knew that I hadn't really been considered like hard. You know what I'm saying? Like I needed to show niggas like I could rap,
Right.
and I can make like to be honest with you, I'm just spitballing here, but yeah, I had a lot to prove on 1.5 and I think it really took me somewhere where I did not think it would take me. I made that music in like 2 months in Hawaii really quick to make a quick mixtape. And we was like, let's just make a bunch of fun ratchet shit and just rap, just keep rapping,
I feel
and
it.
then put it out. But then it took me on a world tour, and I didn't even expect that. So it was great, it gave us more time to really put this album together. And with Limbo, it's just, I'm 26 now, you know what I'm saying? Like I ain't no little kid. I've been around the world. I've like life has changed crazy for me from where I was at when I made Good For You, you know what I mean? Um, and I don't know, I just feel like such an adult now. Like I don't I don't get excited to go to the club or like nothing like that. I get excited to to like, I sit down with my dad and talk for hours now, you know, like I've kind of grown. I would never do that when I was 21, you know, like you always say hi and bye to your parents and you don't really care. And nowadays I feel like, I just feel like a better human being, you know what I mean? I feel like I'm growing into a real adult now, and I'm starting to understand like life and family and the things that really matter in life. And that's kind of like where my headspace has been at when making Limbo.
For sure, for sure. I mean, even listening to the album, that's what I got. I was like, Limbo just
You
feels
got
like,
the whole thing, right?
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
sick, sick.
You know, it's like it feels
You like
like
it?
more mature. I love it.
Okay, cool,
I
cool.
love it. It's so good. It feels mature. It feels like, you know, you got some old school like beats in there, instrumentals, but still got that Aminé flair. And it's just like, yes, like this is, I mean, just from the beginning, you know, Burden is like one of my favorite tracks. And I was like,
Thank you. Thank
yeah, I was like, this is fire. I mean, just to open up the album with it really just sets the tone, you know.
you. Yeah,
And
yeah.
I want to know just kind of, you know, what inspired, you know, the title, just to kind of just start from, you know, titling Limbo. And then how do you feel like it captures the essence of the album?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the way the title came about was at a certain point we had pushed back the album like the first time we pushed it back, we were a little frustrated, you know what I mean? Because we wanted to put out the album, but we realized the album musically wasn't at where it was. I didn't even have Burden compensating or Woodlawn or any of those songs. I didn't have those yet. And I was making that album, and um, when I was doing it and we had to push it back, me and my co-executive producer Pasquet, like we work every day on this thing, and we were just like, man, like I just completely feel in limbo with the way we like are going about this. I just don't, I a part of me wants to put this out and a part of me doesn't. And then I started to, when he said that, like it was like a aha moment, you know, like a bright light. And I was like, wait, that's a really good, I love the word limbo, just the way it looks. I'm a guy who, like, before I had the title Heebie Jeebies for a song, I
Mm-hmm.
wrote it down and made sure I made a song called Heebie Jeebies, just because I like the title. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
words and titles are really important to me. And the way I saw Limbo, the way it looked on paper and its meaning, I was like, oh, this is so me. Like, this is, the word looks good. And I'm completely in limbo with where I'm at in my life as an adult. I'm still figuring it out. And a lot of people think, or that like celebrities or artists, they want them to speak up about certain things and know that, speak up for them. And I'm learning too. You know what I mean? I'm in the same boat as you. You know what I mean? And that's, I don't know. That's kind of what I want people to understand when they listen to this album.
Got you, got you. Yeah, I mean, just to kind of jump into, you know, Burden, the intro is comical but also tragic. You know,
Yeah,
it has that resonance like, oh, this is funny, but then you're like, wait, this is like there's some truth in there, you know, and that's the tragedy in it.
yeah.
And you know, why choose that intro for that track, you know?
But to be honest with you, I chose Burden right after I made it. I was like, oh yeah, this is so the intro. Just the lines, the end of the first verse, I talk about my own death. And I'm like, you know, yeah, make sure the choir is wearing a yellow rose, make sure, I
Mm-hmm.
forgot the lines because I haven't listened to my own songs in months. But I end the verses like that because it just felt like the intro was like you walking into my funeral and me like letting you know like this is tragic, but I also want you to know, like, celebrate me and like appreciate what I've kind of done, instead of, you know, like being sad about it. Like, that's kind of, I was just spitballing. Honestly, the Burden song is really all over the place, but it's like it lets you know where my life has been, I guess, in the past couple of years. You know, you start to hear about family, friends in that song, and that's kind of why I like it.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. I mean, even on the topic of death, I mean, you talk Woodlawn and Kobe, you know, those are the tracks I think about when I hear like, you know, death and, you know, kind of that death of your childhood when Kobe died, you know, and I think a lot of people that are from the West Coast really resonate with that. It's just like, wow, I'm really not a kid anymore. And like a piece of
Yeah.
my childhood is really gone, you know? And for you, like those two moments were intertwined, you know, Kobe's death and the death of your childhood. Was creating this song therapeutic or was the goal like resonance?
For the Kobe skit.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it was so Jack Knight, who's a comedian from Seattle, he writes for like Big Mouth on Netflix. He's like he's a big deal, you know what I'm saying? And he's one of my best friends, and I wanted him to do the skits on this album. So that's him speaking. He speaks at the beginning of Burden and everything. And we were all the skits from this album are all like a conversation that me and Jack had. So we talked for 2 hours on a microphone just about the topics of the album. Talked about life. Talked about like this. I have a whole 2 hour like podcast, and I cut up the parts that meant a lot to me, like the Kobe skit.
Mm-hmm.
And when he was explaining Kobe, my reaction was just like, wow, this like was a blow in my chest because it was the perfect explanation for what Kobe's death meant to us. It wasn't like seeing like a basketball player, someone famous died. I was like everybody's second dad, you know, especially for like young black men who hooped. Like I'm sure you got a cousin or two somewhere who like loved Kobe. And yeah, I just feel like that skit, I was so proud to put it on the album because I thought it really embodied, you know, every time I play it for my niggas, me and my niggas just go, whoa. You know, like, and that's why I like it, you know, like if I'm not here to like that skit ain't for nobody other than black people, you know what I mean, who really understand what
Mm-hmm.
he meant, you know what I mean, because he was just such a great guy too. That shit like broke my heart. That same day when I found out he died, me and my best friend went to go get like number 8 tatted on us.
Crazy. Yeah. Had to. I mean, I feel like everybody had that kind of same response. It's like, yo, like, how can we honor him and how can we still move on from this? I think that's like the hardest thing. It's so unrealistic. It doesn't feel like reality has set in yet that, like, someone that was so close to LA, so close to, not only LA, but like basketball, just black youth, just black people in general,
The whole world. He was
yeah,
like
literally the whole
a
world.
walking
And
superstar.
exactly, it's been hard for sure. And then, so for your second single, you dropped Riri.
Mm-hmm.
And Riri touches on like the superficial, non-committal type of relationships, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, the beginning of the song is like, "You love Rihanna, but you ain't a savage." I was like, I listened to it, and I was like, I like Rihanna. Like, Rihanna's pretty dope. Like, am I a savage? Like, I'm starting to question myself, and I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, what does Aminé really mean by that?
Yeah, I mean, what honestly, it was just like everybody in the studio smiled when they heard that line. You know what I mean? So I was like, so that I love like one thing about me when I write a song, I always have to make sure like, of course, a song has to be good to you when you're writing a song, but I make sure like that first line always reels you in. You know what I mean? Like something about the way you start a song, the way you introduce it. Like I could listen to a song and maybe skip it because I hate the intro. You know what I mean? So like your first words are your first impressions. So I always wanted to make sure I catch you. And I knew with this song being about, you know, relationships and past women in my life that I knew a lot of girls would gravitate to this song. Guys would too, but a lot of girls would do. And I knew exactly what to turn a girl's head by saying that, you know what I mean? Make it like, it's not too rude. It's more so just a little jab, you know what I'm saying? Just a little, what you talking about, you know? So I don't know, that line has always, I love that line off that album. It's like one of my favorite lyrics just because it's funny.
For sure, for sure. I kind of felt attacked, but I was like, I gotta ask. I know I'm not the only one wondering. Like,
Yeah, it's like you know the bitter me speaking. You know what I mean? Like
right?
you miss somebody, but you're like I know you type of shit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then you titled it Riri. So, like, how do you view Rihanna? Just in general.
Oh, like she's queen. She's the goddess of them all. I mean, we all know that. I don't know. She's just so great. She doesn't even like. She's so unproblematic. She speaks up when she needs to. She's gorgeous. She a business mogul. Like I don't know. It's like the list goes on. You know what I'm saying? She's
Sure,
like female Michael Jackson. She's crazy. She's
definitely.
a superstar. So, um, yeah. I mean, I entitled it Riri just because Riri just looks so good on paper. Again, titles for me because I had other titles for the song like calling it 1 2 3 or other shit like that. You know, because of the hook, but it didn't really resonate with me. Even the title like broke my heart. it just didn't even look good. And Riri just was quick and I don't know, it just looked good, So
Sure, for sure, for sure. And then you just dropped Compensating as your third single.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
And Young Thug and you together, that chemistry is just fire, like the
yeah,
the two voices are like instruments in one. I always think of Young Thug's like voice as an instrument.
for
And
sure.
like on Compensating, you like that excels and then you're just like, oh, this is dope. Can you
Yeah.
describe your, creative process with him and working with Young Thug on Compensating?
Yeah, so I had Compensating made, I had the hook and everything in Toronto. I made it with T Minus, the producer. And T Minus is just known for, he did Cole stuff, he's done everybody's stuff. He's like the quarterback of producers, you know what I'm saying? And he, when we were making it, we were thinking of like, because I wanted to, I'll do a rap verse, and I was like, quick, but I want this to be, I knew I wanted to have a feature on it to really rap on it, you know what I'm saying? I personally didn't think I should rap and go crazy with the singing as well. So it was actually T Minus's idea. He pulled up Compensating, like the beat,
Yeah.
and he was like, yo, you wouldn't believe this. And he shows me that Thug a couple months ago had a verse that he did on that beat that he's not using at all. And I was like, what? Like the verse went perfectly with what I was talking about on the song. So the chances of that happening, I was insane. Cause like when he pulled it up, I was like, you know what, bro? Like that's cool. Like I'm excited to hear it, but it's all good because I don't want it to not make sense. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't want to be putting a verse in a song if it
Right.
don't to the topic. And we listened to it and we were like, whoa, yeah, it's crazy. And then Thug's team loved it, and then it's out now, and I'm excited about it.
Fate, honestly, because it's
Yeah,
perfect. It sounds so planned, and to hear the fact that it was kind of like pieced together and it just worked out is like,
technology is a crazy thing.
man, that's amazing.
Yeah,
So, Pressure in My Palms, I got to this record and it's like intense, it's hungry. It's like you get the hungry Aminé, like it's time to kind of get that, recognition. And to me, it's one of that standout tracks on the album. And I just want to know, where do you get that energy from? Stay that intensity, that hungriness. Where is that coming from?
it comes from just wanting to prove yourself. I feel like I'm kind of happy I'm not like the biggest artist in the world right now. You know what I mean? Because it creates like a crazy hunger for me as an artist. Like it makes me want more. You know what I mean? And having like that tunnel vision to reach the end of that tunnel, and I haven't gotten there yet, it feels good. It motivates me to make better music. It motivates me to put together an album like Limbo, because if I wasn't, then I probably would make a bad album if I was comfortable. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I think that's it is what it is.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then, when we think about just kind of like proving ourselves and being hungry, I always look at like kind of the goats in the game and like people like Jay-Z and Hove and
Yeah.
uh, I know in some of your tracks you reference him. Like, how has Jay-Z influenced your career?
uh I'll put it like this. I was my whole life I didn't really make music or think I would be an artist. I played ball, I was trying to become a
Mm-hmm.
ball player. And it wasn't until end of high school, that I started freestyling and taking it seriously. But my whole life, I was very influenced by music. And it was a lot had to do with my mom playing a lot of like Michael Jackson and Bob Marley in the house. And Tupac. My mom played edited versions of Tupac for no reason. It was funny. And my older cousin, was the biggest Jay-Z head. And
Yeah.
I only, as a kid, I only knew Jay-Z's hits. And then when I got to college is when me and him took a road trip together from like Portland to San Francisco to the Bay. And we was like in the car together the whole time, just him and me. And all he did was play nothing but Jay-Z album cuts that whole ride. And it being a kid, being like 18 and hearing these raps, and I'm like, whoa, this is like God level type rap. This is just the cockiness, the arrogance, the confidence in his voice and the way he spits those lines. I was like, man, this is like, if That's where I personally got my confidence from, the way he speaks, because the way he was just so flawless with his words and how he really meant them was just, and that's the same place where Kanye gets it as well, and that's somebody else I look up to. So Jay is definitely like the godfather of this shit.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. And then like just to kind of backpack off of that, like the saying, you work so hard, you become your rivals. Like, is that the goal for you? Like,
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't want no beef with Jay-Z, but I also, like I'm, being on the charts or winning awards or being taken seriously as an artist, the bigger you get, the more your idols become your rivals. And, I've seen, you know, uh, just certain things that make you look at the industry or make you look at a certain artist a different way. And you're like, oh, like, I guess like everybody's human, you know what I mean? It isn't like the worst thing in the world, but it's more so like, um, as a kid in the early 2000s, when we grew up, celebrities were really put on a huge pedestal. Like when I was a kid, I used to wonder what would it be like to live in 50 Cent's life? You know what I mean? Like it was like, they're like the presidents of this shit. And nowadays artists with like Instagram and Twitter and all this shit, like fans can feel more connected to artists. So yeah, I just think it's important to let the people know that you're just human too, I guess.
yeah, for sure, for sure. While we're on the topic of idols, you have a song titled "Mama," and it's a celebratory song for your mom.
Yeah.
And then you have a song called Becky, which is like standards, and expectations that your like family place on you, like, don't bring a white girl home, Um, do you still feel like you need to live up to those standards as you become an adult? And how has your mother influenced you now as you know, reflect on your childhood and like where you're going to go as an adult?
This I got the second question. The first question, can you repeat that for me again? Sorry.
Yeah, for sure. The first question was just like, do you feel like you still need to live up to your parents' standard?
Okay, yeah. I mean, honest to God, I'm an African child. I'm first generation, so I always feel like I have to live up to my parents' standard. You know what I mean? But as you feel that, like us first generation kids in this country, it's funny, we hold the same values as our parents, but we also are, American at the same time. We do the things our parents tell us not to do, and that's kind of like my whole point with Becky was never to glorify a white woman or the relationship of it, but more so, if you read the lyrics, the song is really fucking sad. You know what I mean? It's just, first verse is about the black side, and the second verse is about what it's like for the black man on the white side. It's something I personally have experienced being from Oregon. You know what I mean? I didn't get to grow up in LA or New York where I got to see niggas everywhere I went.
Right.
I grew up in Portland, Oregon, where once I stepped out of my hood, it was only white people.
Yeah.
And when my parents sent me to a middle school where I was the third black person, I was just the third black person in that school. That's when I moved to a black school for high school, because I couldn't take middle school. And when I was a third, that's when like I started to date white girls. Like I started to, those are the only girls around. So I was like, oh, okay, like I guess I'm gonna be like this. And that experience was just something I knew I hadn't really heard someone tell that story in a song. And I'm really proud of Becky. You know what I mean? That was the first song that ever started Limbo, just because I think it's a song that a lot of people could relate to. You know what I mean? Like, black women date white guys, and black dudes date white women. It's something that needs to be talked about. It is what it is. You know what I mean? It's life.
For sure, for sure. And then
And Mama was my fourth try at a Mama song.
okay.
So I for years, for Good For You and 1.5, I always tried to put a Mama song. Like, I always wanted to make a song about my mom, and I knew how important that was. So, like, trust me, I made those versions and I thought they were weak. I didn't think they were good enough. You know what I mean? Like, you only get one shot at a Mama song. So Mama, what you hear on Limbo, is like the first time I felt like, oh shit, like this one is it, you know, like this one, Charlie Wilson on it, just is the cherry on top, you know.
It is chef's kiss. Like I saw Charlie Wilson, I was like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
like completely. Like
Things with passion. Like when me and Charlie were in the studio, he just went on like a 15-minute rant about how much he loved this song. You know, like, he was like, "Man, it's just such a beautiful thing to have a song about your mom, and it's good." And I was, you know, when he talks to you and he gives you compliments, he makes you feel really special. So, yeah, I'm really proud of both of those songs.
that's amazing. I mean, Charlie Wilson saying your song is good. Like I would be like, man, I
Yeah.
retired. That's it. Like I made it.
He's always been like Uncle Charlie though. Like he's so
Yeah.
sweet. Like, and he's always down to come to the studio, always down to do like any ideas because he's singing on Roots too. He's just like he's a god, you know. So
For sure. That's amazing. You got some special features on here for sure.
yeah. They're all. But I guess what's so cohesive about the features is they also they all fit really well on the songs to me. Like these were really planned. And two, I'm a huge fan of all these artists. Like huge fan. Like I play nonstop Vince, Summer, all that shit. You know, like these are people I'm fans of. So that's why I think this is the proudest I've been of the features I've ever put on an album, because it's really the people I listen to. You know.
Dope. And they all just like go so well with like your musicality. So it's just like it's interesting that you're a fan of some of people that compliment your voice. Like that's dope because then when you work with them, it's just like
Yeah, I didn't. It's funny because these songs are like these guys have been my friends for a couple of years now, but these are the first times I made songs with them. So like Roots was the first time I got Jid to rap. He wanted me to send him the song 7 months, but we were both on tour and I didn't want to text him the song. So I told him whenever we're free together, I waited 7 months and we both linked up and he wrote the verse in person. And that's the first time I ever heard Jid rap slow. Like he was hard. And it's like it's one of my favorite verses from him, period. And that's not no bias because it's my song, but it is what it is. And Summer, I knew I always her the song Grave was like it touched me. I listened to that song like 100 times a day on tour, you know, because I like to listen to like R&B and soul only before I go on stage. Like I just like to listen to calmer shit before I go on. And Grave was just replaying in my head, so I always knew I wanted to do a duet with Summer. And I had a couple of ideas I sent her. She didn't hit me back because I'm sure she didn't like the first couple ideas. but I sent her Easy, and I think she loved it, and you know she was down to do it, and it was great. Like I'm really proud of that song as well.
That's amazing. I mean, and then like Vince, I love Vince. I'm from
and Vince. Sorry,
I'm kind of biased. I'm kind of biased, but I love Vince, and I'm like, yo, this is dope. I saw Vince before I listened to the song, and I was like, hurried up, and it was like, click. I was like,
yeah, Vince also just like, just such a guy who's not only a good artist, but he's also a great dude, like a real stand-up dude, like a real nigga, you know. And anytime you meet him, like one of my favorite people I've ever met in this industry, because when I talk to Vince, we talk about regular human life shit. It's never like surface level industry music talk. It's always just like life talk, which is refreshing. You know what I mean? Because you don't get that a lot from artists.
Yeah, for sure. I could imagine. I'm not an artist, but I could imagine.
No, but I'm sure you had to talk to a lot of artists in your life. So every conversation, everyone's different, you know?
For sure. Definitely. So 6 months from now, Limbo has dropped. What would make you feel like it had the impact you wanted?
Oh, like what do I want from the album?
Yeah.
I mean, look, like awards are something that, you know, in this industry solidify you. You know what I mean? And that doesn't make me happy, but it also like it would be nice. I'm not gonna sit here in front like I don't want an award for something I've worked really hard on, you know, but it also is you want the music to speak for itself. That's all I want. 6 months from now, I just want everyone to know, damn, like Aminé dropped an even better project. And that's all I want. Like I wanted to make sure like everyone knows every project I do just gets better and better. And that's kind of where I've proved myself to this point. And now, Limbo is another test. Every album is a test, you know what I mean? To see if they're gonna keep him or get him out of here, So hopefully in 6 months, you'll do another interview with me, and I'll be in a good spot in my life.
Sure. No, for sure, for sure. I mean, I listened to the album. It's dope. I know people are gonna love it. I know 6 months from now you're gonna be like, I knew it. Like,
Yeah, I've always been. Thank you so much. I've always been just a dude though, like who I really try to expect nothing, and then when it comes to me, it's like the best feeling. You know what I mean? Because you didn't have when you boggle yourself with, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. It's like you can go crazy. So yeah, that's
for
for sure.
sure.
Stay mentally.
For sure, for sure. So just a last question. I'm gonna wrap it up here. How do
Oh,
you want?
also didn't say sorry. I know you asked me about Vince, and I just want to say like his verse is crazy too. His verse is very good.
He's gonna hit you up like, yo, hold on.
Yeah, his verse though, like his verse, he came to the studio, same thing. He did it in person, and he wrote his verse, and shit's just cold. Like he just these guys. The reason why I respect them so much as artists is they weren't like, yo, let me take this back to the crib, like just give me the beat, like I'm a, and that happens, which is fine too. Like that's fine, but it also is like there's no better feeling than being together in the same room and really putting together this song. You know what I mean? Like that feeling is different.
Yeah.
Sorry. You can continue. I just had to say that.
No, all good. I can only imagine like just creating and being an artist, like having other creatives in there in that space,
Yeah, it's like even when you're listening to a beat and you both look at each other and smile because it's hard.
Right.
That in itself is just like a moment you can't like fabricate, so it's
For sure.
fun.
For sure. I mean, moments like that are kind of hard to find too. So that's
Very,
dope.
very.
That's dope. So
Thank you.
how do you want to be remembered?
It's a good question. I feel like I kind of explain it in that a little bit in that verse in Burden. But I also, for me, I just want to be remembered for being a dude who really, like inspired kids around the world to really be their best selves. Like I grew up on my parents listening to music that they carried with them their whole life. Like Bob Marley means the world to my father. You know what I mean? And that kind of lifelong lasting like effect on someone is like all I want in this industry. Like I want to make sure like I really give people, memories and moments of their life that help define it or make it easier for them, So I think that's how I want to be remembered.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good way, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
That's it for me. I have no more questions. Thank you so much for this. This was dope.
This is great. Thank you. Appreciate the questions too. Like this is a great interview. It was not boring at all.
Okay, good. You over here like, yo, no more. Hey, yo.
Hey, no, but you know how artists just be like very monotone in interviews if they don't like it. You can tell when an artist doesn't like an interview.
For sure.
I'm smart enough to know that. So yeah, I enjoyed this. Thank you.
Oh yeah, for sure, for sure. All right. Well, thank you. Stay up. Stay safe out here.
You as well. You as well.
All right. We'll tap in with you later.